Why is she here? My mother's voice cuts through the ballroom like glass shattering against marble. Sharp, intentional, and designed to draw blood. Conversations falter. Champagne flutes pause midair. 100 eyes swivel toward me, drawn by the gravity of her disdain. Across the room, my younger sister Jade folds her arms, her smile curled like a blade. "You're not on the guest list," she calls out, voice sugar-sweet and loud enough to feed the growing whisper storm. Charles, my father, remains a statue, stoic, untouched. He doesn't look at me, don't blink, just sips his drink with military precision, as if I never existed. I expected nothing else, but I step forward anyway. One click of my heel echoes against polished marble, a sound that lands like a gunshot in the silence. This place, this monument to vanity and wealth, the Grand Bellevue Hotel, was built for people like them. The powerful, the polished, the cruel, not for the forgotten, not for the girl they threw away. But tonight I don't just exist. I arrive. If you love stories of resilience, reclaiming justice with style, and rediscovering your worth, hit that subscribe button for Graceful Revenge now. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. Let's dive into the power of elegant revenge and life's deepest lessons together. A ripple of unease spreads through the crowd. I can feel it in the way the guests shift, their champagne flutes tilting, their curiosity sharpening. They recognize the tension before they recognize me. Then I see it, the first real crack in their perfect facade, not from my mother, not from Jade, but from Ethan, Jade's fiancé. His smirk vanishes in an instant. His entire body goes rigid. His fingers twitch. His throat bobs in a thick swallow. And suddenly, he looks like he's seen a ghost. Interesting. I tilt my head. Let the silence stretch. Let them feel it. The weight of what's coming. And then, with quiet control, I say the words that send a ripple of dread through the room. Do you really not know who I am? The shift is immediate. The whispers rise, silk rustles against polished floors, conversations fracture. I watch my mother's grip on her champagne glass tighten. I watch Jade's confidence flicker for just a fraction of a second. They expect me to cower, to shrink, to be the same helpless girl they threw away. I smile, slow, deliberate, a blade sliding free of its sheath. My name is Lena, and just like that, their perfect world begins to crumble. I still remember the cold, the way it crept into my bones, numbing my fingers, biting at my skin. It wasn't just the wind that night. It was the weight of rejection, the crushing realization that I was truly alone. Charles, my father, stood in the doorway of our grand estate, his arms crossed, face unreadable. Behind him, my mother Vivian didn't even glance in my direction. She sipped her wine, staring past me like I was already gone. And then there was Jade, my younger sister, the golden child, standing just behind them, wrapped in warmth, smirking like this was nothing more than a minor inconvenience. "You're a burden," my mother had said, her voice cool, detached. "A waste of time, a waste of money." I wanted to scream, to fight, to plead, but I already knew how this would end. "No buts, Lena," my father cut in, his voice as cold as the icy night air. "You're an adult. Figure it out." And then the door shut. Just like that, I was erased. I remember staring at that door, waiting for it to open, for someone, anyone, to come after me. No one did. The wind howled through the empty streets as I clutched my coat tighter around me. My entire world reduced to the $17.28 in my pocket and the clothes on my back. For 3 nights, I slept behind Rosie's diner, curled up near the dumpsters, where the heat from the kitchen vents barely kept me from freezing. Hunger gnawed at me. Exhaustion dragged my limbs down like lead, but I refused to break. Each day, I walked aimlessly, trying to find work, trying to find food, anything to keep myself alive. My reflection in shop windows was a ghost of the girl I'd been. Hollow eyes, wind-chapped skin, hair tangled and matted. Every step felt heavier than the last. Every rejection chipped away at what little strength I had left. But every night, huddled against the cold concrete wall, I swore I wouldn't let them win. I wouldn't allow their cruelty to define me. Determination filled me, fueled by anger, hurt, and betrayal, a fierce resolve that kept me moving forward. I took odd jobs, slept on friends' couches, saved every penny. Years passed, each marked by incremental triumphs, by small victories built on sheer perseverance. And now, standing in the Grand Bellevue Hotel, this place meant to celebrate their wealth, their power, I am no longer invisible, no longer helpless. I am Lena, survivor, fighter, success story. I have returned not for their acceptance, but to reclaim my identity, to prove that their abandonment did not break me. It made me. On the fourth morning, I was caught. Maggie, the owner of the diner, stood over me, arms folded, her sharp eyes assessing me. "If you're going to loiter," she said with measured annoyance, "you might as well make yourself useful." She tossed a broom at my feet. That was my first real break. I scrubbed floors, washed endless stacks of dishes, and worked double shifts without complaint. By the end of the month, Maggie had softened enough to let me sleep on an old cot in the back storage room. By the end of the year, I had managed to scrape together enough savings to enroll in community college. I didn't stop. I couldn't afford to stop. At 20, I secured a full scholarship to a prestigious business program. By 23, I found myself interning at a rapidly expanding medical startup. My ambition didn't falter. Instead, it drove me forward relentlessly. At 27, I took a leap and launched my own medical nutrition brand, a company designed not only to disrupt the healthcare industry, but also to make me millions. As for the Carters, my estranged family, they never knew about my successes. They never deserved to. Jade recovers first, of course. She tilts her chin upwards, the ever-present smirk twisting her lips. She remains the golden child, always so certain of her place in the world, always so confident in her untouchable position. She lets out a sharp, mocking laugh, loud enough for nearby guests to overhear. "God, Lena!" she sneers, her voice dripping with familiar condescension. "You just had to show up and embarrass yourself, didn't you? Still desperate for attention, I see. You couldn't even make it through college, and now you're trying to, what? Crash my wedding and make some pathetic scene." I smile slowly and deliberately, taking my time. "Oh," I muse, tilting my head slightly. "Is that what they told you?" For the first time, I see the faintest flicker of uncertainty cross her expression. Calmly, I reach into my clutch, withdrawing a neatly folded sheet of paper. I unfold it carefully, intentionally drawing out the tension, letting the significance of the moment settle heavily upon her shoulders. Then, I raise the paper just high enough for Ethan, who stands stiffly beside her, to clearly read its contents. His eyes scan across the page quickly, and immediately his face drains of all color. "What is this?" Ethan's voice is quiet, yet there's something dangerous simmering just beneath the surface. Jade shifts nervously beside him, her fingers clenched tightly. "Oh, please!" she scoffs dismissively. "She's making things up." "It's your academic record," I reply smoothly. the one that proves you never actually finished medical school. A ripple of shock and disbelief spreads quickly through the guests surrounding us. Ethan doesn't move. He continues staring at the document as though he can't quite comprehend its reality. His jaw tightens visibly, fingers flexing tensely at his sides. He knows exactly what he sees is authentic. Jade's eyes dart frantically between Ethan and me, panic visibly creeping into her carefully controlled expression. Then she laughs, not nervously, but loud and performative, throwing her head back dramatically, as though this is all some amusing misunderstanding. "This is pathetic," she sneers harshly, shaking her head. "You show up here with some fake paper and think you can ruin my wedding? Honestly, Lena, I should be flattered. I mean, it's painfully obvious you're just jealous. Look at me. Look at my life. I have everything you don't. A successful fiancé, a loving family, and a future you can only dream about." I don't react outwardly. Instead, I take a deliberate step closer, my voice calm and carefully measured. "If I'm so irrelevant," I murmur softly, "why do you look so nervous?" Her smirk falters for just a fraction of a second, but I see it clearly, and Ethan sees it too. His grip on the document tightens further. "Jade," he says coldly, "tell me this isn't true." She scoffs again, though there's now a brittle quality to it, an underlying fragility betraying her bravado. "Oh my God, Ethan, you're actually believing her. You know how she is. She twists things. She lies just to make herself feel important." "Lies?" I interject smoothly. "Interesting, because I have more." The tension within the ballroom shifts instantly, becoming sharp and electric. Vivian steps forward, ever the strategist, ever the cold and calculating matriarch of the family. "Enough of this nonsense," she snaps, her voice clipped and authoritative. "I won't let you ruin your sister's wedding with these absurd accusations." I turn slowly toward her, meeting her icy gaze head-on. "Oh, Vivian," I say, smiling slightly. "You, of all people, should know better than anyone. I don't make accusations, I present facts." Then, deliberately pausing to heighten their dread, I deliver the final blow. "Why don't we talk?" About the financial fraud case against the Carter Family Clinic, dead silence fills the ballroom. Charles, my father, the man who stood in that doorway all those years ago and threw me into the cold, stiffens noticeably. His jaw twitches nervously. I reach into my clutch again, this time pulling out a sleek black USB drive. I toy with it casually between my fingers, watching as the realization dawns painfully in his eyes. "I have bank statements," I continue, my voice deliberately light and casual. "Emails, legal documents, all clearly showing proof that your little family-run clinic has been committing insurance fraud for years." Jade inhales sharply. Vivian's fingers tighten reflexively around the fragile stem of her champagne flute. Charles visibly pales as murmurs among the gathered guests grow louder now. Whispers gradually morph into quiet gasps of disbelief. "That's ridiculous," Charles responds finally, his voice low, carefully controlled. "You have no idea what you're talking about." I take a slow step closer, lowering my voice just enough so only he can hear. "You didn't think anyone would find out, did you?" He flinches visibly. For the first time in my life, Charles genuinely looks afraid. Harold steps forward abruptly, his face flushed red with fury. His fingers are clenched tightly into fists at his sides. The once composed and distinguished hospital director now resembles a man who has just realized he's been thoroughly deceived. His voice slices through the stunned silence like a sharpened blade. "You told me she had her degree," he states, his intense gaze locked accusingly on Charles. You personally vouched for her. You guaranteed that her credentials were legitimate. Vivian, ever the master manipulator, immediately straightens her shoulders and forces a brittle smile that never quite reaches her eyes. Harold, she tries calmly, this is simply a misunderstanding. Whatever my daughter did or didn't do. She never graduated, I interrupt firmly, my voice cool and steady. She never even came close. Ethan still hasn't moved. He's standing frozen, staring blankly at the damning document in his hands, his knuckles white, breathing unevenly. After a painfully long moment, he finally exhales slowly and measuredly before turning toward Jade, his voice eerily calm. Tell me this isn't true. Jade doesn't answer. Ethan's face visibly hardens. His fingers curl around the engagement ring on his hand. I defended you, he mutters bitterly, his voice barely above a whisper. I trusted you, and this whole time, you were just… He cuts himself off abruptly, with a sharp, humorless laugh. Then, without another word, he yanks the ring off his finger and hurls it forcefully at her feet. The metallic clink of the ring against the marble floor is deafening. Jade makes a desperate sound, instinctively reaching out for his arm. But Ethan quickly steps back, sheer disgust clearly twisting his expression. Don't! He snaps sharply, his voice thick with raw betrayal. Vivian's eyes widen dramatically, and she lunges forward, her voice suddenly dropping into a pleading tone, one filled with the kind of manipulative charm she's expertly perfected over many years. Ethan, sweetheart, she urges, let's be reasonable. You and Jade are meant to be together. A few mistakes shouldn't change that. Ethan shakes his head slowly. His expression fills with something dangerously close to regret. You don't get it, do you? It's not just one mistake. It's everything. Every word, every lie, every single act of fraud. He then turns to look at me directly, his gaze unreadable, yet intense. She was right. Vivian blinks in disbelief, momentarily rendered speechless. For the first time, genuine desperation flickers openly in her eyes. But I'm not finished yet. I exhale slowly and deliberately, allowing the gravity of the moment to fully settle before I drop the final bombshell. You've been using my identity for tax fraud for the past decade. The room erupts instantaneously. Vivian audibly gasps. Charles's face drains entirely of color, his eyes wide with shock. The quiet whispers around the ballroom quickly transform into full-blown murmurs of outrage and astonishment. That's a lie! Charles snarls desperately, his voice shaking uncontrollably. I smile slightly, challenging him openly. Is it? I pull a second USB drive from my clutch, holding it between two fingers for all to see. Because I had my identity thoroughly checked recently. Imagine my surprise when I found out that someone has been filing fraudulent tax returns under my name. Someone who just so happens to be standing right here. Charles visibly recoils. Vivian stumbles slightly, gripping the nearest chair for support. Jade's facade completely crumbles. She looks at me with a mixture of fear, disbelief, and mounting panic. You can't prove any of this, Jade stammers, desperately attempting one final defense. I tilt my head, a slow, deliberate smile spreading across my lips. The moment of reckoning has finally arrived. Oh, Jade, I say calmly, clearly savoring each carefully chosen word. You and I both know I already have. To own a certain family-run clinic. Harold turns sharply to his assistant, instructing firmly, call the legal department now. Charles lunges forward desperately, but security is already stepping in. The weight of my words crashes over him like a tidal wave, shattering his carefully maintained composure. You think you're better than us? He roars, his voice desperate and unhinged. I meet his gaze steadily, tilting my head just slightly. "I don't have to think it," I reply smoothly, my tone calm and unshaken. "I know it." Security grips Charles' arms firmly, pulling him back just as Vivian stumbles, her perfectly polished facade finally cracking. Panic has now set into her previously composed expression. The guests step back cautiously, distancing themselves. Their gazes now hold nothing but judgment and scandal, the once revered Carters reduced to mere cautionary tales. And Jade. She sinks to her knees, sobbing uncontrollably. Her beautiful wedding dress pools around her, now in utter ruins. I take one last, lingering glance at the wreckage I've left behind. Then, calmly, deliberately, I turn my back on them. The ballroom quickly descends into chaos. Security moves swiftly, their voices low but firm as they escort Charles and Vivian out, their angry protests drowned out by the murmurs and pointed stares of curious onlookers. The mighty and once untouchable Carter family is now reduced to nothing. Harold is already making urgent calls, ensuring Charles' medical license is swiftly revoked. The IRS surely won't be far behind. Their empire crumbles rapidly before everyone's eyes. Their wealth, their power, their carefully crafted influence, all now gone. Jade still kneels, sobbing helplessly, her cries muffled against the pristine marble floor, the engagement ring Ethan hurled bitterly at her feet, glinting under the brilliant chandelier lights. Untouched, abandoned, exactly how she left me so many years ago. I take one final look back, not from nostalgia, not out of regret, but because I need to remember this moment, the moment the people who so cruelly discarded me finally faced the consequences of their actions. Jade lifts her tear-streaked face, meeting my gaze. Desperation is starkly evident in her trembling voice. "Lena, please," she begs softly, the plea I once yearned to hear, the words I would have clung to desperately in the past. But that girl, the one who craved their approval, their love, died alone in the cold the night they shut me out. I tilt my head slightly, considering her plea for a moment. Then I smile faintly, coldly. "You never cared about me," I murmur gently, my voice soft, yet undeniably final. "And now, I don't care about you." Her lips tremble painfully, a fresh sob threatening to break free. But I don't wait to hear it. Instead, I turn decisively, stepping carefully over the shattered remains of their perfect, carefully constructed world, and walk away. Outside, the air is crisp and fresh, reminiscent of that first breath after escaping from a burning building. The city hums quietly in the distance, blissfully unaware of the chaos and destruction I've just left behind. Leo is waiting patiently. He doesn't speak at first, just watches me carefully, his dark eyes assessing my state. He doesn't ask if I'm okay. He already knows. Instead, he raises one eyebrow, lips twitching slightly into a gentle smile. "So, cake?" I blink, momentarily startled. Then laughter spills out freely, real, unrestrained laughter, the kind I haven't genuinely felt in years. "Yes," I say, still grinning widely. "Let's get cake!" Because revenge was never the ultimate goal. Freedom was. And now, after all these years, I am finally, completely free.